Good evening, and thank you all once again for joining us here on Speed Racing Network. I'm Greg Olenek, joined by Brandon Domain. As always, Brandon, good evening to you, and welcome here to the Rat Pack Racing Cash Dash. Race number 2 at Daytona with some trucks. Are you excited to be back in the booth with your good old buddy Greg here?
Absolutely excited. Going to be a whole lot less stressful up here than it was out on the track last time when we ran it at Talladega for 100 laps last time around on New Year's Day. That was a wild one there for sure, but definitely excited to be back up in the booth here tonight.
Yeah, it was wild for sure down on the track. Wild up here in the booth as well. Once again, we apologize for all the technical difficulties that we had that day, but I promise you, I have been working diligently over these last 2 weeks to get it fixed. So we're going to bring you guys a good show here tonight on Speed Racing Network. But before we get to that show, let's go ahead and bring in the sponsors here for that Rat Pack Racing Cash Dash. And man, they are some great sponsors indeed. Make sure you guys go over there and check them out. We got Elite Performance Industries, Flavor Bomb. Go ahead and check them out at FBBBQ.com. I think I got that right. There's a lot of B's in that. Sparkle and Shine Mobile Detailing, and then Alley.Duke at minivanvacations.com. If you're looking to take a vacation here in 2022, which we all need one already, go ahead and check her out. And last but not least, Dave Jr. Graphics makes some awesome paint schemes that we're going to see out there tonight.
Yeah, and all those B's in that Flavor Bomb website. Throw some B's in the chat there for that one. And go ahead and visit all those sponsors. Great sponsors. Glad to have them on board for these races and helping boost the incentives here for these guys. It's a pretty high buy-in for the race for everybody jumping in on this one, but a whole lot to be able to be won there for these guys.
Absolutely. There is a lot of money on the line. Let's get out there on the track. You can see it's a nighttime race here tonight. Bring up some race info for you. And there you see it down in that bottom right hand. This is the money that they are racing for that Brandon just mentioned. First place going to come away with a cool $300. Second going to get $100. And if you make it in the top 3, you're guaranteed at least $65. Fourth going to come away with 40, fifth getting $25, and sixth through 10th getting $20. And Brandon, I love the fact that a random driver finishing from 11th through 25th will be selected to receive $20 by race control. Last week, that was the 23rd place finisher, Doc Holliday.
Yeah, and he had a bit of a miscue there during the pit stops. I was glad to see him kind of get that little bit of a random boost there, getting that $20 and just how that happened there. But great race last time. We did see some trouble out on the track, probably a little bit more often than we would like to be seeing. But we did see a great race, and I was up there, that last lap, had a shot for some of that money before the big wreck happened on that last lap and knocked me out of that contention. But a whole lot of fun last time up. Expect the same here tonight as we go night racing at Daytona.
Yeah, you got to be in it to win it, and you certainly were in it, but got some good weather out there. Partly cloudy, as you can see, 75-degree temp. Very humid, as you would expect down there in Florida. So it's going to be a fun night of racing out here. They are wrapping up qualifying, I believe, as we speak. Let's go ahead and bring up the charts. And it looks like Michael Amenti right now going to be the top guy up there. Bobby Anderson in second, Michael Madden rounding out that top 3.
And then in 4th place, we'll have Nathan Nixon, Kyle Landis rounding out the top 5. Ryan Johnson in 6th. There we go with the full screen look at that. Row 4, going to be Mike Mosby, John Taylor in the 8th starting position.
Yeah, Cody Riggs in 9th out of Rev Racing for the 59 machine there. Sebastian Arias, cool name out of the Carolinas. He's going to be rounding out the top 10. Tyler Murray in the 16 machine, going to be in 11th. And then Drew Ballesteros in 12th.
And 13th is going to be Nick Halda. 14th will be Brandon Key. Making up row number 8 will be Tommy Haynes on the inside. Jamie Plord in the 16th starting position. Michael Larch will be in 17th, and rounding out row number 9 will be John Osborne.
Yeah, Troy Techmeyer going to be in 19th. Rounding out the top 20 going to be Josh McKinney. And then Doc Holliday, that guy that we mentioned who came away with that random draw, $20 last week, going to be starting 21st, and Corey Saucier in 22nd.
In row number 12, we'll have Dean Gagliano in the 23rd position. Andrew Santo will be in the 24th starting spot, rounding out that 12th row. Row 13 will be Danny Dow in the 25th position. Casey Saltek in 26th. Aaron Roth and Jovi Ray will be making up row number 14.
Yeah, good to see Jovi Ray back here on Speed Racing Network. Jordan Saylor is going to be in 29th. Rounding out the top 30 will be Blair Holloman, a name we saw running up towards the front a lot last week. Daniel Keith Jr. in 31st and Brandon Browning in 32nd.
And then the last 5 drivers out here in row number 17, it'll be Michael York and Brandon Richardson. In row 18, Rob Yost Jr. and Michael LeBlanc. And then rounding out the rear of the field is going to be actually one more row here, Travis Trevelyan and Blair Patterson in 37th and 38th.
Yeah, quite a big field here tonight. 38 trucks out there on the track, so it's going to be a great show. Pace truck lights are off already as there's only one really long lap around this Daytona International Speedway. And Brandon, you ran last week in Talladega. It is a much wider racing surface down there in Alabama as opposed to here in Daytona, so it's going to be some tight racing. I don't know if we'll be seeing as much 3-wide racing tonight.
No, and we were seeing 4-wide racing quite a good bit there at Talladega, which is possible to be done. But the problem that these guys had, and I'll throw myself into that mix too because I got caught up in some of it, is you can go 4-wide at Talladega, you can go 3-wide at Daytona, and if it's in a league setting, you're used to how guys are going to be running. But we've got a lot of SRN league drivers, but we also have a lot of guys, and I don't want to call them outsiders, but that's kind of the name that comes to mind right now, that you're not as used to racing against if you're one of the SRN guys. So there's a little bit of unpredictability there that does make it a little bit harder. So I think we'll see 3-wide. These guys getting a little bit more comfortable with each other, but that's still going to be a pretty precarious situation going around this racetrack.
Yeah, well, something that these guys are going to have to remember that you remembered last week, you got to be in it to the end to get a chance to win that $300 prize for first place. So we'll see how patient these guys are here this week as opposed to last week and see if a lot more guys might be able to make it to the end because we had a few drivers getting disqualified. I think they fixed that this week with the incident rules, so hopefully we won't see as many cars be disappearing this week.
Yeah, a little bit more on the incident points to help that out, but let's get ready to roll here in Daytona.
Yeah, we're going, and we are green for 100 laps here down in Daytona Beach, Florida, and Michael Minty getting it started for us tonight and already getting us confused. Got 55 on the door, 25 on the scoring pylon, and man, they are already pushing Nathan Nixon, already pushing Bobby Anderson really hard through turns 1 and 2, and they're getting bunched up. That's Michael Madden there in the 224. Used to seeing that be Cody Riggs. He's running that in honor of his father tonight.
Very nice touch there with that 224 on the door there for Michael Madden, but still side by side. We're really starting to see 2 different races already playing out here on lap 1. A lot of the guys that are being aggressive up here in the front of this pack still going side by side. Get about midway through, you're seeing a lot of these guys starting to drop back a little bit, realizing what happened at Talladega last time out and taking the more cautious form here. But lap 1, it's still looking like a high-speed pace lap right now, 184 across the line as we put lap number 1 in the books.
Yeah, you can ride on board with Nathan Nixon right here pushing that 18 of Bobby Anderson just in front of him. Not wanting to get too close to the bumper just yet. I think we're going to see a little bit of a different race here, like I was mentioning, Brandon, and see a little bit more patience, but we'll see how long that holds on for.
Yeah, I kept waiting for that patience to kick in at Talladega, and it seemed like every time there was a little bit of an incident out there, it would just kind of start piling in on each other. People getting more aggressive when you would think they would get less aggressive out there, but here, still very much side by side. Nobody really pushing 3-wide at the moment throughout the entire field, so this is looking very stable at the moment.
Yeah, very stable indeed. Coming back across the stripe to go on to lap 3 here. Cool new view from iRacing, the spotter cam. We can watch them go all the way around the track. And Brandon, we were talking about this before the show. This is one of the coolest cameras out there, and they need to put it on every track.
Oh, I absolutely hope they do that here soon, especially with the NASCAR season in real life. Down to about 30 days until we get kicked off with the Clash and then the Daytona duels out there. About that same time till we get kicked off with the SRN season as well. And this is a fantastic view as you see it all the way down the back straightaway. Still on that one spotter cam. This is what these guys like, TJ Majors, Freddie Kraft, those guys that you hear on Door Bumper Clear if you're a listener to that. That's the view that they'll have through their binoculars on their spotter stand in real life. life. They recreated it very well here in iRacing.
Yeah, awesome tease, by the way, Brandon. You mentioned it. We're about 38 days away from the Daytona Duels kicking off the SRN season. So there are not very many spots left if you're looking to get into the Cup Series. I think that's the only spot that we have room for. If you're looking to join, make sure to head over to www.speedracingnetwork.com and claim your spot today. But getting off the spotter stand, that was a really cool look. And like you said, that is a money spot for a lot of guys because a lot of these guys tonight do have spotters, and they are probably using that camera.
Yeah, that's going to come into handy big time for these guys with that spotter stand. If you're able to have somebody there guiding you around this racetrack, letting you know what's going on. There are those automated versions of the spotters that are available either through iRacing or through a third party, but they just don't give you that real time. There's that little bit of a delay. It's not a perfect system that you get if you got somebody that you're familiar with in your ear. They can also do a good job of motivating you in one of these longer races. I mean, we're looking at a race at Talladega that took nearly 2 hours. It's going to be about the same tonight if we see anywhere near the amount of cautions that we did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, let's go ahead and back a little bit further on in the back, excuse me. This is 24th place Danny Dow. Looks like they have opted to kind of fall back away from the rest of the pack. You can see them in front of them, just giving them a little bit of space in case that big one happens that Brandon mentioned. But like you said, it's a little bit of space up there in that front pack for all these guys, so I'm not sure we'll be seeing that anytime soon. So they really got to do their best to hang on to that lead pack. Otherwise, they could be finding themselves in some serious trouble.
Oh, we got trucks around there. Out of turn 4. You see it up ahead. No caution on the racetrack, at least as of yet, as they spun down to the apron towards that inside wall. They cycled off the racetrack. Not entirely sure who that was. They were off in the distance there, but a couple of trucks in the top 10 getting turned.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back through my events list, and I'm not seeing any type of red for any contact out there. So I'm going to try and figure out who that was, but not really sure.
I believe it was Brandon Key in the 11 and Sebastian Arias in the 05, the two trucks involved in that one.
All right, well, Brandon Key has some left rear damage there, some significant damage, so he's going to have to go down and get that fixed if he's going to want to be competitive and competing for that money here tonight. But yeah, no caution, and we stay green as we cross the stripe for lap 8.
And that's going to be something that those guys that dropped back that we were jumping on board with Danny Dow a little bit ago, you saw that gap that was back there between he and some of the guys that are up in this lead pack. We're looking at a couple of seconds now to make up that gap. Then that's something that you got to be mindful of if, and that is a big if at a track like Daytona, if this thing goes caution-free, you're still looking at a couple of pit stops there that are going to be a factor, but you don't want to have that 2-second gap. It's still very early in this race. The odds of a caution very high, but there's always that doubt in your mind. If this thing goes green the rest of the way, that's a strategy that you got to be very careful with.
Look how close these guys are getting. They're getting ready to start pushing here down the back stretch as we're riding on board with Michael Minty, and lo and behold, they're on the front stretch, so I couldn't even tell where we were at on the track, Brandon, but there you see Brandon Key down there coming out of the pits, getting that truck fixed up as much as he could. I don't believe you guys have any fast repairs, so he's going to really have trouble finding the speed out there with that spoiler damage. But, hey, we've seen some guys get some luck and get back on the lead lap, so he's going to stay in it and keep working to try and win some money here tonight because, like we said, you finish in the top 25, you're automatically entered for that random draw and could possibly walk away with your entry fee, $20.
Yeah, and I was just checking in on my second view here with Brandon Key, and he did get far enough back that he wasn't able to get up to speed and catch the draft of that second pack that's back there. So he's going to be by himself. So that's going to be a limited window that he'll have to try to hang on to that lead or that one lap down position, which as of now he is the lucky dog. And if a caution came out, he'd be right back up on that lead lap.
He's going to need some big-time help, like you said. Don't want to fall more than one lap down. Wow, we saw Michael Madden get really close there. So I believe that's Bobby. No, I'm not sure who that is. I think that's Michael Minty that he almost got into there.
A real close moment there as Michael Madden waiting until the last possible second to jump out to that outside line. And now we're starting to see 3 wide there around the 8th position. You see that red 54 truck of Drew Ballesteros in the 9th position. He went towards that wall, sitting there on the high line, 3 wide, trying to make that stick. He's going to need some help, though.
Yeah, he's got the John Taylor machine, that 41 truck just in front of him. Looks a little unstable as these trucks are going through their fuel cell. These back ends are going to start getting a lot lighter, and it's going to feel like you're driving on air, kind of, just floating out there in the field as we got a blinker out there, the 121 machine of Kyle Landis. That is not what you want to see when you're super speedway racing, so hopefully he's going to be able to get that cleaned up. Otherwise, the admins will force him to go to the back of the pack. We got a wreck here, Mike Mosby and John Taylor.
They're actually going to keep that from being a monster wreck. It's only going to be a couple of trucks heavily involved in this one. Of course, Mike Mosby going to be the main one involved. I believe that was... I couldn't get a good look, actually. I thought that was Ballesteros, but he actually went through that just fine. But we'll take a look here on the replay. That's a 41 of John Taylor that got caught up in that one as Mike Mosby got turned straight into the wall, and somehow that only was a 2-truck wreck in terms of those who got significantly involved.
Yeah, we're going to go on board with Joby Ray here, who also got some damage as well, I believe. Let's go on here.
I think that was Nick Helda, I believe, in the 49.
Yeah, he's also getting some damage as well. Let's try and take it back for you again one more time here. Give you a different perspective.
This is on board with Brandon Key, right? I believe it was the 11. And you get to see all the carnage that's up in front. And that's still a nervy position when you start working your way through a wreck like that. You want to get checked up. And every now and then, we saw it earlier when we were on board. If you're right behind somebody, you can't really see what's going on in front of you. So if you check up, you're kind of putting yourself in the hands of the person that's right behind you, that they know what's going on as well. That's a pretty precarious position. Even if you're farther back, that wreck plays out for a good 3-4 seconds in front of you, but you're still not in the clear at a super speedway.
Not at all. That was on board with Josh McKinney, by the way. Brandon Key was a little bit further back in the pack, and this is exactly what he wanted to see. We were just mentioning it in the old broadcasters. Curtis comes to strike again as he gets the time needed to repair that 11 truck and get back on the lead lap if he didn't make any contact with any of those trucks. But we see just about everybody coming down here to possibly just get some fuel. You don't really need to take tires here, but under yellow, why not?
I would agree with that. The other thing is that at Talladega, for sure, I would say you never really need to take tires the entire race if you really don't want to. Daytona, there's a little bit more handling that's going to be involved. I don't think it's too imperative that you need tires, but it's something that can give you a little bit more confidence there going around the track. It's just a lot less worn in than Talladega is. There's a little bit less grip, and it's also a little bit tighter just by being that 0.15 of a mile shorter. The radiuses are a little bit more snug. It kind of helps to have those fresher tires. Not a necessity, though. You can go fuel only for much of this race.
Oh, definitely. Let's go ahead and give everybody a quick rundown of that top 10 after everybody pits. And Kyle Landis opting to stay out. The top 3 actually opting to stay out. Kyle Landis, Andrew Santo, and Brandon Richardson all staying out there on the track to get that track position. And then you got Michael Madden back there in 4th and Bobby Anderson in 5th.
And then behind them, it's going to be Ryan Johnson. Sorry, I was trying to figure. We've had a lot of drivers with the last name Johnson in SRN, and that kind of threw me off there for a second. Nathan Nixon going to be sitting in the 7th position. Michael Lamintu, we've seen him up front much of this race as well in the 25 truck in 8th. And then we're going to have Murray in 9th and Troy Techmeyer in the 10th position. And sorry to Murray, I was looking for the first name there and wasn't able to put Tyler Murray. Thank you. As I was looking for that the whole way.
I put it right on the screen for you, man.
I know. I was looking at the rundown at the same time.
I feel you. It's all good, man.
We've been off season.
Yeah, we've been off for a little bit, so we're a little bit rusty, but we're going to get it back. We got plenty of time to do so as there are still 87 laps to go, but we have our first caution of the night, and actually not too many trucks involved in that one, so hopefully a lot of these guys are going to be able to keep it going out there tonight. But cool to see a Golden Corral truck out there, Brandon. Maybe he's trying to win us a free dinner here if he finishes in the top 10. Isn't that how it used to work?
Yeah, I still remember. I think it was a Daytona 500 where I want to say it was like Ward Burton or somebody was right behind. I want to say it was Dave Blaney maybe that had the Golden Corral car, and on the back end of that, it had Kids Eat Free
Yep,
for a top 10.
there it is.
And yeah, and that was something that a view that race car drivers got tired of during that 500, just sitting there right behind them in that bump draft, just thinking, all right, well, kids are going to eat free. That's going to be burned in my brain forever.
Yeah, why not us, man? Come on, Golden Corral, hook us a thoughts up. I could probably pass for a kid. What do you think that age is? Maybe like 31, 32?
Yeah, you just got to maybe shave the beard. that might hold you back there.
Never. Well, we are gritting up, getting ready to go back to green flag conditions out there on the track. The pace truck lights are off, and these boys are ready to get back at it with Landis and Santo up in the front row. We saw Santo running up towards the front a lot last week, and a lot of the same here tonight.
And we've seen both of the drivers on the front row have issues with blinking here tonight, so hopefully that does not become a factor here. It's really easy to do under caution and right after a restart when everybody's bunched up. Hopefully their connections hang on here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we are back green here at Daytona, and these guys get a good jump. Landis makes sure not to get too far out there because that can really bite you. If you get too far out and these guys get a good run, that could really hurt your chances of staying up front, and then the train just starts to go on by.
And one thing that we can touch on now is that the race leader was Landis. He chose to take the outside line, which kind of goes against what you see a lot of the time at Daytona or Talladega. A lot of guys want that inside to protect, have that yellow line to kind of be that protective barrier. You only have to worry about one side of the racetrack. He opted to go on the outside, had a good run. It paid off for him getting out in front, as now Ryan Johnson going to get the nose of that 38 truck just out in front. But that was an interesting strategy to see, maybe just feeling it out there a little bit here on this early restart.
Yeah, why not learn a little bit if you have the opportunity to do so? Kind of worked out for him as he has command of that inside line. But, yeah, like you mentioned, Ryan Johnson, he's there and he's here to play tonight. These guys are battling, and that 38 is trying everything to clear that 121. He's probably really trying to communicate with Michael Amenti right now and see if he can push him up there. But right now they're starting to fall back a little bit as Andrew Santo is right on the bumper of that 121.
And this is actually a really great job by this outside line right now. Normally you'll see the inside line have an easier time keeping those things nose to tail and really tight together to generate more and more power than you'll typically see on the outside line. That inside line has the benefit of being able to hug that yellow line, and it just kind of keeps everybody able to keep that thing straight. But everybody's starting to give a little bit more space on that inside line, a lot more tightly packed on the outside for the most part, and that's kind of where we're seeing that outside line start to pull up towards the race lead there, with Landis still holding on to it. But when they've kept that thing nice and tight there in a straight line on the high line, they've really had some good runs.
Yeah, that inside line kind of breaking up a little bit. That's going to help Kyle Johnson get back up there until Michael Madden decides to get on the bumper of that Santo machine. And there you see it, that big run coming from that outside lane. This is their time to possibly take command of that inside line, which is the spot that you want to be in if you can just ride that line. And we're going to see the 38 probably drop down this time unless he decides to stick with his pushing buddy, the 55 of Michael Amenti.
And that's something that I don't think gets talked a whole lot about when it comes to the sim side of racing at a super speedway. It's really easy. Yeah, if you're clear, you can drop down to that inside line and kind of take the lead on that inside line, which is typically the preferred line for a lot of guys. But what you don't really see a whole lot is when people get really comfortable with a pusher right behind you, you really do want to stick with them because you can predict what they're going to be doing. They can predict what you're going to be doing if you're really comfortable. Of course, all this is moot now as Michael Amenti drops down to the inside. When that hole opened up in the third position, he's going to drop down to the inside line. But that's something that we can see these partnerships really starting to form out on this racetrack. And if you get really comfortable with somebody, you really want to stick with them the rest of the way.
Yeah, Michael Amenti now going to take command of that outside line. These two switching as Ryan Johnson, is now pushing the Amenti machine there, and they're going to see if they can get that 55 up front now as Troy Techmeyer is just behind them. So this battle for the lead is not over. And Brandon, as you learned last week, it's not over until that checkered flag waves here at Daytona. It is constant battling here side by side, which makes it a lot of fun, but it really makes for some white knuckle moments as we see Michael Amenti drop down low and now has command of that inside line.
Yeah, that was a move that Ryan Johnson didn't want to make the first time. Michael Amenti more than happy to make that move, but it was a great job by Kyle Landis to jump to the outside line. He happened to see that there was just enough space there to lead that outside line. Now he's going to get right back out in front, and he's going to leapfrog Michael Amenti back to the lead on that inside.
Yeah, battling all over the place, but Troy Techmeyer, he is just steady, working his way up through the field, now up to third. He has gained 16 positions so far, and that's the beauty of restrictor plate racing. You can start in last and finish first like it's nothing.
And speaking of, a name I just saw flash up there in the top 10, starting on the last row, now sitting in the 11th position, Travis Trevelyan in the 71 from the next to last starting position. Well, actually the last one, because our 38th starter did not turn a lap, at least starting the race, Blair Patterson. So the last official starter on the grid, now up inside the top 10.
Yeah, we will count it for his sake. He has moved all the way up from the back and starting to work his way up to the front, and that's your teammate out there, man. So I know you got to be a little bit unbiased here in the booth, but I know you love seeing him work his way up to the front.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time running a lot of these restrictor plate races that pop up during the real-life off-season for NASCAR. We'll see a lot of races like this. Of course, these ones are the best ones, in my opinion, but we do see a lot of them kind of start showing up with these Daytona or Talladega races, and Travis has run a lot of them, picking up a lot of experience here on these super speedways, and it's paying off here as he's sitting in the 9th position.
Starting to get a little bit wobbly up there up front, like we mentioned on that last green flag run. As you go through a fuel run here at Daytona or any super speedway, that back end starts to get really light. Troy Techmeyer into the wall a little bit there. Keeps it off, and I don't think he's going to get too much damage from that, but he's got to be really careful, and he's going to start a big wreck here. Andrew Santo involved. A lot of people involved here.
Oh, wow. Huge wreck. One rolling through turn 3. That was the one of Michael Larch, and we're seeing a good 15-plus trucks involved here in turn 3 on lap 20. Still 80 laps to go and about half the field getting caught up in this one almost.
Yeah, we're going to go back and try and get that for you guys here. We're on board with Troy Techmeyer. We're just following him, and he was just really loose on the backstretch, and that just caused all sorts of chaos as he got into the 6th Andrew Santo, and then everybody else got involved with that one. I'm going to go on board back here a little bit further back and go on board and see what it's like for these guys seeing that happen just in front of them. Oh, all right, maybe not, because that guy blinked out, I believe, so give me one more second and I'll pick somebody else, and we will do that again.
iRacing God's not on our side.
No, not at all. I'm on board with Michael York here to see his perspective as that all unfolded. And there, okay, I'm not sure what iRacing. He blinked out a little bit. All right, so we're going to go with Andrew Santo possibly and see what he saw and see if he can give us a perspective.
And this is a tough spot because he had nowhere to go. This wreck starts, and you're just trying to run that inside line, hoping that you got enough speed that by the time that truck gets turned around to your outside, you're going to be by it. And there was just nothing he could do. He did get caught up in a few of the incidents last time, and actually said post-race, he was a little aggressive, a little bit more aggressive than he wanted to be. He was going to work on it. I was kind of noticing that and was about to bring it up at one point there that he was looking a lot more cautious, but this time got caught up in that one. Nothing of his doing as that entire track just got blocked off there in turn 3.
Yeah, that was just nowhere to go at all, but I'm pretty sure we got just about everybody in pit road right now, and looking like Ryan Johnson gonna be the first one out there on the track. He's gonna have that option to choose lanes on this restart. So curious to see what his choice is, as we saw the leader last time choose that outside lane. I have to imagine he's going to go with that inside line this time.
Yeah, then we'll see how that one plays out. As we still, looking at the numbers, we're still going to have at least 2 more pit stops if this thing were to go green the rest of the way. I would like to see that go green the rest of the way, but I don't have the highest hope there of that one, as we still got 30 trucks on the lead lap. And what we saw at Talladega was we would see a wreck, and then maybe for a lap or two it would calm down, but then the aggression would pick right back up. But I think with we saw the amount of drivers get disqualified for the incident point limit, and it was a little bit lower last time at Talladega. They did bump it up a little bit more. So hopefully everybody kind of learned that you got to be more cautious, especially once you get a couple of those incident points early on, that you really got to be smart around this track. And maybe that we'll see a lot more cautious racing than we saw at Talladega over these next 75 laps or so by the time we go green.
Yeah, the incident limit, I believe they rose it or raised it a little bit. And, a lot of drivers wanted them to get rid of it altogether, but it's really there to promote cleaner racing. And so hopefully we're going to see less drivers get disqualified tonight as we're only on our second caution and about a quarter of the way through this race. But, Brandon, let's go ahead and pause for a second, and we're going to run a commercial break while we're under this yellow flag.
Want to be a part of an established league on iRacing? A league that's competitive, fun, and above all fair? Look no further than Speed Racing Network. Originally known as Mid-South Madness, SRN has evolved into a league that can bring the best out in any given driver. Drivers work their way up through the ranks to hopefully one day call themselves a champion of Speed Racing Network. If you're interested in joining, don't hesitate to reach out to league admins to claim your spot today. Maybe you'll end up in the history books. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor in Speed Racing Network, feel free to head over to www.speedracingnetwork.com and reach out to an admin today. And as always, remember to go faster.
All right. We are back from that quick commercial break. And like you said there, if you're interested in joining Speed Racing Network, head over to speedracingnetwork.com. Claim your spot today as the Daytona duels are right around the corner for us and NASCAR, Brandon, and it's going to be an exciting season with these next-gen cars, and I've heard a lot of good things. People are loving them.
Yeah, it's way different on the iRacing server right now, and it still could change in the next month or so before the season starts as they continue to learn more about the next-gen cars. But it is way different than I think what most anybody was really expecting these changes to be from the Gen 6 to the new gen. I can't really say next-gen anymore because the next-gen is now. But speaking of now, we're getting ready to go green flag racing again at Daytona.
Yeah, it's the future of NASCAR, and it looks a lot different than what we're used to. But something that we're used to seeing here is a great show put on by these trucks here at Daytona as we see a couple guys get off pit road a little bit late and somebody already getting caught in the sucker hole there. That's Blair Holloman. He's able to get down in front of Michael Madden. But a new leader, Michael LeBlanc, out in front, and he has moved up 35 positions, Brandon, and he can't move up anymore.
Oh, he's got as good of a run as he can. Well, now he's got one more position to pick back up as Ryan Johnson retakes the lead. That outside line really strong early on after these restarts, but then they kind of just separate just enough when they get into the turns, and that's really that yellow line that it gives you something on the inside to use as a focal point, a reference point that you can kind of stick to. That outside line doesn't have it, and it does create that little bit extra separation, especially going into the turns, but that outside line leading the train as we cross the line there 24 laps down. Ryan Johnson back out to the front.
Yeah, this pack getting a little bit smaller now. I believe only 24 trucks in this lead pack, and then Danny Dow, Daniel Keith Jr. a little bit further back, and then everybody else from 27th on down is going to find themselves a lap down. So that crash really causing some chaos and really trying to bend some sheet metal on pit road to get them things fixed up and get in the running for that money.
And another thing that's going to do with the smaller pack now is it's going to create more opportunity to see the longer green flag run. Maybe get to the point where we see some green flag pit stops as well, because these guys also, they have the space, but they also have that little bit of a mindset now. They just saw that huge wreck happen, and they see the incident points starting to build up. They saw all the guys get dropped out of this race, maybe picked up some damage themselves. A whole lot to be mindful of with still 3/4 of this race remaining.
Yeah, it's starting to go by, and they're going to be running out of laps here shortly, but these guys up front really trying to find that track position and get themselves in position to get that money. And one of those guys, I'm going to go ahead and bring him up right here, Brandon Key. He was that guy that was involved in that first wreck that didn't bring out a caution, found himself a lap down early on, got back on the lead lap, and is now back in the top 10. Daytona is just wild.
That is Daytona in a nutshell, going that lap down, but being one of two trucks one lap down by the time that caution came out. And was able to get back on the lead lap with that lucky dog. That big wreck happens. All of a sudden, you gain 20 positions, and being in the back of that pack wasn't such a bad thing because that entire wreck played out by the time he even got to it. So unbelievable turn of events there for Brandon Key in the 11 as he finds himself into that 9th position. Amongst a lot of the guys inside that top 10 have been inside the top 10 for most of the race.
Yeah, and that's probably where you want to be after we just saw what happened. Even though Troy Techmeyer was running about 4th at the time, you want to be up front. And a lot of people decide, before the race that they're going to drop back and get in the back of the pack. I mean, sometimes that does work out, but at the same time, all of that carnage is happening in front of you. So it's a really tough choice to decide what your strategy is here for these super speedways. And whenever I'm in these races, Brandon, I waver back and forth. One moment I'm like, I'm going to start in the back. Next moment, I want to start in the front. And you know what? Once it gets to race time, I just go with it.
It's one of those things, like, no matter what you pick, it always winds up being the wrong one. That's kind of how I feel about it, at least. Like, at Talladega last time, I decided, you know what, I'm going to sit in the back for most of the race. And then by the time we get to the point where we're on the final pit stop, or at least the final needed pit stop, that's where I'm going to start to make my move. And wound up sitting there in the top 5 when we got to the last lap. It worked out pretty well until the last lap wreck happened on the back straightaway coming out of turn 2. But it was just one of those things, like, every now and then you get it right, but most of the time you spend 80% of the race second guessing your decision out there every single time of, am I making the right call by being in the back? Am I making the right call being aggressive up here? It's just one of those things that you never feel comfortable with what you're picking.
Yeah, definitely. It's never the right decision indeed, but you saw Josh McKinley there on the inside there as everybody went by. His truck really damaged, and he is just limping along as these guys fly on by. But this pack's starting to really spread itself out. You see those guys further on back in the pack, Brandon Browning and all these guys back here. I think they're opting to just ride this thing out for the time being.
And I don't mind that call one bit. I think that's the smart strategy at this point. We're still seeing side-by-side for the top 12, 14 positions. Let them do that. If they stay side-by-side and this group just stays relatively close together, they keep up some speed there in a straight line, they'll still be just about as fast as that pack that's in front of them. So they're really not going to be hurting too bad. You still see them within striking distance. They can easily pull back up into that pack if they work together in that straight line. And they're doing a good job of that right now. A little bit of a snake pattern there, but they can tighten that up just a little bit and catch right back up. They're in a good position, really, with this much length in this race remaining.
Yeah, and one thing that a lot of people don't remember, too, is with these guys running further on back in the pack is they're saving a lot more fuel than, say, these guys running up front. These leaders out in the front row, Ryan Johnson and Michael LeBlanc, they're full throttle right now. Brandon Browning, who we were just watching, probably around half to maybe 2/3 throttle all the way around this track. That is saving significant fuel, and if this becomes a fuel strategy race, that could pay big time once they're writing the check at the end of this race.
It absolutely could, and there's a little bit of protection for these guys on a super speedway because once you start seeing the leaders make their pit stops, most of the field will want to come in because they'll want to stay with the lead pack. They'll want to stay inside a good chunk of drivers so they can keep some speed going on the racetrack and not be out by themselves. But for the most part, there's going to be some of those guys near the back that can kind of still work together if they can communicate with each other. We do have some of the Discord channels. There's a maximum amount of drivers. I believe it's 5 drivers allowed inside each Discord channel. So some of these guys that are in that backpack may be communicating with each other, talking to each other about what they're wanting to do. They could kind of counter if they're saving a lot more fuel. But these guys that are leading the way now, Tyler Murray out in front there in the 16 truck, he's going to be punching the hole in the air. And that's something that I probably say ad nauseum when it comes to these races. But it's a good visual of why they're burning so much more fuel. They're the ones, so we had a good close look there at the Toyota logo from the 19 truck of Michael LeBlanc. But what they're doing is they're punching that hole in the air. They're giving everybody else the ability to go 80%, 90% on the throttle and still be just as fast because they don't have to fight the aerodynamics that are going on for the lead trucks.
Yeah, I was about to say that last lap, it was starting to shape up like this thing was going to go single file, but that outside lane really starting to gain some speed again as Ryan Johnson wants to reclaim that lead, and Bobby Anderson doing a great job pushing him along. And Jovi Ray, now up into the top 6. He's running 6th right now, up 22 positions already in that 52 machine. And Jovi's been around Speed Racing Network for quite a while, and we know that he knows how to get to the front when it comes to payday here at Daytona. He was leading coming to the checker flag at the beginning of Speed Racing Network season last year, and unfortunately got into an accident that cost him that win, but he was there when it counted.
Yeah, one of those guys that once you get to the end of a race, always up there, knows what needs to be done to get to the front late in a race, and especially at the super speedways, just a great ability to just be able to read what the pack is doing and how to play defense and how to play offense. Both those things very important at a super speedway race. You got to be selective in when you're going to be on the attack, and then you also got to be very mindful of what's going on around you at all times to be able to prevent being caught up in that middle line 3 wide by yourself or getting hung out to dry on the outside. You always got to be on defense on these races, and Jovi does a great job of finding that balance between aggression and then being conservative. And speaking of aggression, here we go.
Yeah,
right up the middle.
This is going to make some drivers uncomfortable, but this is super speedway racing. When you have a chance to get up front, you take that chance, and Jovi Ray drives straight up to the front, and now in second place, bringing Brandon